Episode 35. Who wins the competition?
That's white t-shirt.
Jeff pointed casually. Jonah turned to look where Jeff was pointing and saw that the white t-shirt that he had chosen was $50 more expensive than the one she had picked out. She became even angrier.
Pack up that pair of $350 ripped jeans for me.
Jeff could buy one more thing and admit his defeat, but he thought of the ridicule he had received from Jake and Jonah, and he also wanted to use that opportunity to play with them.
Help me wrap up those slacks.
Jeff calmly told Vincent. That pair of slacks was $15 more than Jonah's jeans. Jonah was so angry that her breathing became heavy as she said,
That pink, long sleeve top, wrap it up.
I'll take that long skirt.
Jeff said.
Wrap up that silk blouse.
Jonah's commanded and continued to demand more items.
Wrap up that green suit.
That crimson undergarment, wrap it up.
The two of them went back and forth. They each bought 6 or 7 pieces of clothing. Jonah was so angry at Jeff that her eyes blazed. But Jake was even angrier. Jonah had already bought more than $5,000 worth of clothes, which was far more than he had expected. But he was too embarrassed to stop her.
I'm out of money. I admit defeat.
Jeff finally announced. Jake let out a sigh of relief. If Jeff had continued to compete with Jonah, he definitely wouldn't have been able to stop her.
You can't take it anymore. I told you, Jeff, you're not a rich person, so how can you compare to a legitimately rich guy like my boyfriend? You're out of money, right?
Jonah said proudly.
Yes, I can't compare to him.
Jeff said lightly to Jonah. He felt that she was acting like a resentful wife.
Don't think you're so awesome. Just because you won the lottery once in front of me, you'll always be scum. Do you understand?
Jake arrogantly gestured at Jeff with his index finger. He then looked at Vincent and said,
We've spent tons of money here today. Even though this is a high-end store, you guys don't have many customers, right? Your boss sure is something. After buying so many things, he still hasn't come out to meet us.
Vincent glanced at Jeff and saw him suddenly shake his head. He smiled apologetically at Jake and said,
My boss is not here today. I'm sorry.
Jake had wanted the opportunity to get to know the store owner. To be able to open such a big and prestigious store, he must be quite influential. Now that his hopes had failed, he felt a sense of loss. With their arms full of bags, Jake and Jonah walked out the door. Lelaine had initially felt bad because Jeff had bought so many clothes for her. But when Jeff and Vincent told her that she could return the items that she didn't want, Lelaine was overjoyed. She only kept one piece of clothing, and the rest was returned. Jeff could only smile bitterly to himself. He had known this earlier. He wouldn't have said she could return the clothes. He told Lelaine to go to the changing room and to change her clothes. Vincent gave Jeff a thumbs up and said,
Boss, your marketing skills are really brilliant today. These 2 customers spent more money than we earned all week.
Jeff was laughed by his words. He had been forced to compete with Jonah, but in Vincent's eyes, it had become a marketing tactic.
Give them a 3% discount next time they come in.
Jeff said. Now that he thought about it, he felt like he got revenge on Jonah and Jake, and he felt like his resentment had lessened.
Why, boss? Although they bought a lot, I can see they're not big spenders. I noticed that by the time the young lady had bought the 7th piece of clothing, the beau's forehead was covered in sweat and his face was turning green. There's no need to waste resources on them.
As a manager, Vincent was only looking out for the benefit of the boutique.
Just do as I ask. Only give them a discount for one day, if they come back.
Jeff said.
All right.
Vincent had no choice but to agree. His interest was piqued again.
Sir, why didn't you tell your girlfriend that you're the owner of this boutique?
Do not be noisy. Maybe Lelaine is listening. I still can't tell him the truth, that I'm rich.
Jeff reprimanded him. He was getting along well with Lelaine now, and he didn't want to break the state. When the time was right, Jeff would reveal his identity to her. By this time, Lelaine had already changed into her new set of clothes and walked out. She was wearing a beige and white dress. It was pure and elegant, complementing her white and delicate features. She was a perfect beauty.
Beautiful, young lady, may I have the honor of inviting you to dance with me?
Jeff held his head high and puffed out his chest. He reached out his hand to Lelaine. Lelaine was stunned for a moment before giving a faint smile. She handed her soft hand to him and whispered,
"Let me try."
At this moment, Lelaine felt like a lady at a ball. This feeling was something no one else had ever given to her before. She felt more favorable toward Jeff. Holding her hand, Jeff didn't move to dance, but instead he jogged happily out of the fashion beauty boutique. Vincent fell into a daze. He smiled and muttered,
"What an enviable pair."
Jeff wanted to take a taxi back to school, but Lelaine said it was fine to go by bus. On the bus, the two of them sat in the last row. Jeff held Lelaine's hand the whole time as the wind blew her hair onto her face. He hoped that this would be a bus ride that would never end. After getting off the bus, Jeff was about to discuss with Lelaine when they should move into the villa. At that moment, Alfred Owens called, so Jeff found a way to avoid Lelaine and picked up the call. Alfred called this time to ask Jeff to go to the school's Tree Flower restaurant for an event. Jeff wasn't interested if the school had organized, so he told Alfred that he didn't want to participate.
"No, sir, this is also a test from the family. If you don't participate, there will be no results this time, and the consequences will be severe,"
Alfred advised sincerely.
Didn't I already pass the family's test?
Jeff said anxiously.
"Yes, sir, you passed that one. But there will be more to spur you on. The family will keep evaluating you. If your grades are poor, there will still be appropriate punishments. You must not let your guard down,"
Alfred solemnly said.
All right, I'll go participate now.
Jeff said gloomily. His family was really thorough. Even after 7 years of the poverty training program, it still wasn't enough.
What kind of trick was this? Were they deliberately making feel uncomfortable?
Jeff complained to himself, although he understood the way the family did things. As one of the top families in the world, how could it be so easy to be one of their descendants? Otherwise, their family wouldn't have been able to last for hundreds of years without decline.
Lelaine, I'll take you to the Tree Flower restaurant.
Jeff gently said to her, as he didn't want to be separated from her for even a second. Now, since Lelaine was dressed so beautifully, Jeff also wanted to make the others admire her so that Lelaine could have more confidence.
Okay.
Lelaine nodded. She felt happy to be with Jeff. The Tree Flower restaurant was an art building. When it was empty, some small and medium-sized events would be held there. A small stage had been set up in the main hall of the restaurant, and it was surrounded by sound speakers, flower baskets, and ribbons. There were 5 rows of 10 chairs in front of the stage for the arriving guests. Jeff and Lelaine sat in the last row. There were already a few people around, and from the moment that Lelaine walked in, they had already started whispering to each other.
"This beauty looks a bit better. Is she the daughter of some rich man?"
Said one.
She really looks like a celebrity. What would happen to Jasmine if she took this stage?
Said another.
"What is that loser beside her doing? Why is he walking with that goddess? I really want to beat him up."
Said yet another.
Maybe he's begging from her. That girl looks so kind. She must be embarrassed into giving him money. Let him beg from her and give him a chance to earn some.
Said another. Lelaine was like a shining object in her new clothes. She was attracting everyone's attention as she quietly sat in the last row.
Is that?
A confused female voice sounded from beside Lelaine. When Lelaine turned around, the woman's mouth opened wide in shock.
Lelaine, it's really you.
Yep, Andrea Walters. You're here too?
Lelaine created her. Andrea was from her hometown, and the two of them came together from a small country in the northeast.
You bought this at Fashion Beauty Boutique?
Lelaine held in her hand the bag with a boutique logo, which she had used to store her original clothes. Lelaine had to admit that she didn't have much contact with Andrea and didn't understand her personality. She didn't realize that Andrea could have a sour personality, so she asked with a smile.
What do you think?
Lelaine was especially happy that day and wanted to share her happiness with her old friend. She spoke a little more than usual. Normally, Lelaine would not ask such a question. However, from Andrea's point of view, Lelaine's words sounded like she was showing off to her. In her heart, she was even more dissatisfied with Lelaine.
This girl, wearing the clothes that she'd bought from Fashion Beauty Boutique, was showing it off. If it wasn't for being from her hometown, would I even bother to talk to you?
Andrea thought.
You didn't buy it for yourself, did you?
Andrea asked tentatively.
No, it was a friend of mine who bought it for me.
Lelaine said shyly when she thought of Jeff buying clothes for her.
This girl looks good in disguise. She's probably trying to use her body to seduce a rich guy.
Thought Andrea as a trace of contempt flashed in her eyes.
Where is he? When are you going to introduce him to me?
Andrea said with ulterior motives. The fashion beauty boutique clothes were at least $150, so this person had a high probability of coming from old money. Andrea naturally wanted to get to know him.
You have to meet him. This is him.
Lelaine said as she glanced at Jeff, who was sitting beside her. She felt a little excited, as if she was introducing a boyfriend to a friend. Andrea was shocked. Jeff had been sitting beside Lelaine the whole time, but she never thought that it was Jeff who had bought the clothes for her.
How could it be him? This person was dressed like a poor man. Could he afford to buy clothes from the fashion beauty boutique?